There's a food sitting in your kitchen right now that could outlive you. Not by a few months, not by a few years. This food has been pulled out of sealed containers after an estimated 3,000 years, and according to the historical accounts, it was still good to eat. And here's what makes this genuinely important for your health. Most of us are walking around with about 3 days of food in the house. 3 days. That's the average. One bad storm, one supply disruption, one stretch where you simply can't get to the store, and suddenly the question isn't, what do I feel like eating tonight? It's what do I actually have? But this isn't going to be one of those fear-based survival videos. Because here's what almost nobody tells you. The foods that last the longest are, in many cases, some of the most nutritious things you can own. Foods packed with protein, fiber, healthy fats, vitamins your body genuinely needs, foods that protect your health in normal times and carry you through the hard ones. Today, I'm counting down 18 of them, organized into 3 tiers. The Decade Club, foods that stay good for 5 to 10 years or more. The 30-Year Club, foods that can quietly wait on a shelf for 3 decades. And finally, the Forever Foods, the small handful of things on this planet that, stored properly, essentially never expire at all. And the number one spot is probably not the food you're expecting. I'm Alex, and on this channel we dig into the research behind everyday foods and what they really do for your body. Before we start the countdown, I'd love to hear from you. What's the oldest food in your pantry right now? Be honest, we've all got something back there. Drop it in the comments. And if you find guides like this valuable, take 1 second to subscribe and turn on notifications, because the deep dives we have coming are ones you won't want to miss. All right, Tier 1, the Decade Club. Number 18, instant noodles. Let's start with the one that surprises people the most, because instant noodles have a terrible reputation, and honestly, some of it is earned. They're high in sodium and low in nutrients. We're not going to pretend otherwise on this channel. So why are they here? Because in an emergency, the very first problem your body needs solved is energy. Calories. And instant noodles are a sealed brick of fast, reliable energy that can stay good for close to 10 years when stored well. The reason comes down to moisture, or rather, the lack of it. Spoilage needs moisture to happen. These noodles are dried until almost none remains, then sealed against humidity. No moisture, no bacterial growth, no spoilage clock. 2 practical tips. First, choose the flat packets, not the foam cups. The cup material degrades over time. Second, if sodium is a concern for you, and for many of us watching our blood pressure, it should be, use only part of the seasoning packet and add your own herbs. You keep the calories and the convenience, and you cut the salt load significantly. Number 17, canned vegetables. Here's a food that gets dismissed constantly and deserves far better. There's a persistent belief that canned vegetables are dead food, that the canning process destroys everything worthwhile. The research tells a different story. Canning does reduce some heat-sensitive vitamins like vitamin C, but fiber, minerals like iron and potassium, and many antioxidants survive the process remarkably well. In some cases, like the lycopene in canned tomatoes, processing may actually make certain nutrients easier for your body to absorb, and the shelf life is exceptional. Sealed and heat-sterilized, most canned vegetables stay safe for 5 to 10 years in a cool, dry spot, often well beyond the printed date, which reflects quality, not safety. One more detail people miss: the liquid in the can. In a situation where clean water is limited, that liquid provides hydration and nutrients together. If sodium is a concern in normal times, choose low-sodium versions or give the vegetables a quick rinse. That alone can reduce the sodium content meaningfully. Number 16, canned and freeze-dried fruit. When fresh fruit disappears from your diet, you lose more than flavor. You lose vitamin C, antioxidants, and something harder to measure but just as real: variety. And in any extended difficult stretch, variety is what keeps eating from becoming a chore. Canned fruit gives you 3 to 5 years of shelf life along with natural sugars and vitamin C. A quick health note for this audience: choose fruit packed in juice or water rather than heavy syrup when you can. You get the nutrition without the added sugar load, something worth caring about for blood sugar management. Freeze-dried fruit is the long-term champion here. The process removes nearly all moisture while preserving most of the nutrition and flavor. And properly packaged, it can last up to 25 years. Strawberries, apples, mangoes, eaten straight from the bag, stirred into oatmeal, or rehydrated. A quarter-century of fruit on a shelf. Let that sink in. Number 15. Canned fish and meats. Now we get to protein. And this is where canned foods truly earn their place in a health-focused pantry. Tuna, salmon, chicken, sardines. Fully cooked, sealed, ready the moment you open them, and typically good for 5 to 10 years. But here's what makes this category special for your health. The fish. Canned salmon and sardines are among the richest everyday sources of omega-3 fatty acids, the fats research consistently links to heart and brain health. And canned fish with soft, edible bones, like sardines and some salmon, delivers a genuinely meaningful amount of calcium, something many of us don't get enough of as we age. Sardines in particular may be the single most nutrient-dense item on this entire list. Protein, omega-3s, calcium, vitamin D, B12. Per calorie, almost nothing else comes close. If you've never given them a fair chance, this might be the reason to. Number 14. Bouillon cubes, the smallest item on the list, and one I'd argue matters more than people realize. There's a phenomenon called palatability fatigue. It's the psychological wear of eating the same bland food repeatedly. And in extended emergencies, it's one of the most underestimated struggles people face. You're nourished, but every meal starts to feel like a burden. And when eating becomes a burden, people eat less, which is exactly what your body can't afford under stress. One bouillon cube dissolved into a pot of plain rice and lentils changes the entire experience. Same calories, same nutrition, completely different meal. They weigh nothing, cost little, and stay usable for 5 to 10 years. One honest caveat for this channel: they are high in sodium, so in everyday cooking, use them as a flavor accent rather than the whole seasoning strategy. In an emergency, that sodium actually works in your favor. Your body needs it, especially if you're physically active and sweating. Number 13. Instant coffee. This one is here for your mind as much as your body. Freeze-dried instant coffee, sealed properly, can stay viable for 20 years or more, and it asks for nothing but hot water. No machine, no filters, no grinder. The health picture on coffee is actually more positive than many people assume. Moderate coffee consumption has been associated in large studies with several favorable health outcomes, though as always, association isn't proof, and caffeine tolerance is individual, especially if you have blood pressure or sleep concerns. Moderation matters. But in a difficult stretch, coffee's greatest value might be psychological. When routines collapse, a warm, familiar morning cup is an anchor, a small daily signal that some part of life is still normal. The caffeine sharpens focus under stress and mildly curbs appetite, which helps when food needs to stretch. Very few pantry items serve the body and the mind this equally. Number 12. Powdered milk. If you grew up disliking powdered milk, I understand, but set the memory aside and look at the numbers. Non-fat dry milk, sealed away from heat and moisture, can stay nutritionally viable for up to 20 years, a figure supported by long-term food storage research. And what it holds for those 2 decades is exactly what an emergency pantry tends to lack. Calcium for your bones, complete protein, vitamin B12, and vitamin D. That combination matters more as we get older. Bone density, muscle maintenance, nerve function. Powdered milk quietly supports all 3 from a bag on a shelf. Use it in coffee, oatmeal, soups, baking, anywhere fresh milk would go. One tip: once opened, transfer it to a sealed container, ideally with an oxygen absorber. That single step protects both the nutrition and the flavor for the long haul. Number 11. MRES, complete ration meals. These were engineered to feed soldiers in combat zones. No kitchen, no clean water, no time. That design brief tells you everything about their reliability. Each pouch is a full meal, entree, sides, snack, dessert, and many include a flameless chemical heater that warms your food with no stove and no fire. A hot, complete, nutritionally balanced meal from nothing but the pouch itself. Stored at moderate temperatures, they last 5 to 10 years, longer when kept cool. For our purposes, think of MREs as the insurance layer, not the foundation. They cost more per meal than anything else here, so a small supply in the car or by the door is the smart play. The balanced macronutrients, protein, carbohydrates, fat in deliberate ratios, are built for a body under physical stress, which is precisely when you'd reach for one. Number 10. Peanut butter. Here's where I have to respectfully disagree with most of the lists you've seen, because peanut butter is very often crowned number 1. It won't be here, and the reason is simple honesty about shelf life. But first, let's give it full credit, because as a health food in disguise, it's remarkable. 2 tablespoons deliver roughly 190 calories and about 8 grams of protein, along with mostly unsaturated fats, the kind associated with heart health, plus vitamin E, magnesium, and potassium. It needs zero preparation, no water, no heat, no utensils. When your mental bandwidth is gone, food that asks nothing of you is worth more than it sounds. And the morale effect is real. Weeks into plain staples, a spoonful of peanut butter doesn't taste like a ration. It tastes like an ordinary good day. So why not number 1? Because an unopened jar realistically stays at its best for a window measured in a couple of years past its date, not decades. The fats slowly oxidize over time, so treat it as a rotation food. Keep a few jars, always eat the oldest, replace as you go. Used that way, it's outstanding. But now, we leave the decade club behind, because the next tier is where things get genuinely hard to believe. Before we climb into the 30-year club, a quick question. Which food so far has surprised you the most? And is there anything in your pantry you're now seeing differently? Tell me in the comments. I read them, and some of the best storage and nutrition tips we've ever shared came straight from viewers. And if this guide is helping you, a quick like genuinely helps the channel reach more people who need this information. All right. Tier 2. Number 9. Cooking fats, oils, and ghee. I'll be direct. This is the category most people skip, and skipping it is a genuine health mistake. Here's the biology. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble, meaning your body cannot properly absorb them without dietary fat present. You could eat a pantry full of grains, beans, and vegetables, and still shortchange yourself on critical vitamins if there's no fat in the meal. Fat also carries 9 calories per gram versus 4 for protein or carbs, and when calories are scarce, that density is the difference between depleted and sustained. Liquid oils, olive, vegetable, stay good for roughly 2 to 3 years in a cool, dark place. Rotate them like peanut butter. The long-haul champion is ghee, butter with the milk solids and moisture removed. That removal is what makes it far more shelf-stable than butter or most oils, no refrigeration needed, and it handles high cooking heat without breaking down. For everyday health, the balance of fats you choose still matters, but for storage, ghee is the anchor of your fat plan. Number 8. Oats. The most ordinary-looking food on this list, and one of the most impressive. Sealed airtight and kept cool and dry, oats stay viable for 30 years or more, 3 decades. And unlike some long storage foods, oats bring genuine, well-researched health value. They're one of the best everyday sources of beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that's been consistently linked in research to modest reductions in LDL cholesterol, the kind associated with heart disease risk. They also digest slowly, supporting steadier blood sugar and longer-lasting energy. Exactly what you want from a morning meal at any age. The versatility seals it. Hot porridge, no-cook overnight oats with powdered milk and freeze-dried fruit, a thickener for soups, a base for dense energy bars, cheap in bulk, light on the shelf, and good for your heart the entire time it waits there. Number 7. Lentils. If I could only pick one protein source for a long-term pantry, this might be it. Kept dry and sealed, lentils remain viable for up to 30 years, and what's inside is exceptional. Roughly a quarter of their calories from plant protein plus complex carbohydrates, iron, folate, and a remarkable amount of fiber. That fiber does double duty. It feeds your gut, and it slows digestion in a way that supports steadier blood sugar. For anyone managing their glucose, lentils are one of the friendliest staples that exist. They also cook far faster than most dried beans and don't strictly need an overnight soak, which matters enormously when cooking fuel is limited. And their quiet superpower, lentils absorb whatever flavor you give them. Spices, a bouillon cube from number 14, canned tomato, and suddenly you have a genuinely satisfying soup, stew, or patty. 30 years of heart-friendly protein. waiting patiently in a jar. Number 6. Wheat berries. Most people have walked past these 100 times without a glance. Whole, intact wheat kernels, usually in the bulk section, and they solve a problem you may not know you have. Flour goes stale fast. Milling cracks every kernel open and exposes its natural oils to oxygen, and those oils oxidize within months. Whole wheat flour is even more perishable than white, but the intact kernel protects itself. The outer layer seals the oils inside, and stored airtight in a cool place, wheat berries stay viable for 30 years or longer. Here's the part that changes everything. At any point in those 3 decades, you can grind them into completely fresh flour. Fresh, full nutrition whole wheat flour, bran, germ, fiber, B vitamins intact, from grain that's been waiting on your shelf since before some of your grandchildren were born. And you don't even need a mill to use them. Soaked and simmered, wheat berries become a chewy, satisfying whole grain for soups, salads, and porridge, with more fiber and nutrition than anything from a bag of white flour. One hand-crank grain mill, and this becomes 30 years of fresh bread. Number 5. White rice. Every serious food storage conversation eventually arrives here. But there's a health nuance most videos skip. First, the storage science. White rice, not brown. Brown rice keeps its oil-rich bran and germ, and those oils turn rancid within months to a couple of years. White rice has had them milled away, which removes the main spoilage mechanism. Sealed in mylar with oxygen absorbers, it stays usable for 30 years or more. Now the honest nutrition picture. That same milling removes fiber and some nutrients, which is why brown rice is the better everyday choice for blood sugar and heart health. So, here's the framework I'd suggest. Brown rice in your kitchen for daily eating, white rice in your storage for the decades. In an emergency, white rice's job is clean, reliable energy that pairs with everything, and at that job, it has no equal. It stretches every protein, absorbs every flavor, and asks for nothing but water and heat. And now, the final tier. These last 4 foods don't last decades. Stored properly, they last, for all practical purposes, forever. Number 4. White vinegar. It's in almost every kitchen, and almost nobody realizes what they own. White vinegar effectively does not expire. Its acetic acid content makes it self-preserving. Bacteria can't grow in it, mold can't take hold, and a 10-year-old bottle is functionally identical to a new one. No refrigeration, a dark shelf is all it asks, but its real value is how many jobs it does. It's a genuine food preservation tool. Pickling extends the life of vegetables by months while keeping much of their nutrition. It's an effective household cleaner, a meat tenderizer, an insect deterrent, and a note on the health claims you may have seen online. Vinegar is sometimes promoted as a cure-all for weight loss and blood sugar. The honest summary: there's some early research suggesting modest effects on post-meal blood sugar, but it's not a treatment for anything, and it should never replace medical care. What it is one of the most useful, permanent liquids you can own. Number 3. Sugar. On a health channel, this one needs careful framing. So, let's be precise. For everyday eating, the research is clear. Most of us benefit from consuming less added sugar, not more. Nothing in this video changes that. But a long-term pantry is a different context. And in that context, sugar earns its place for 3 reasons. First, pure sugar, kept dry and sealed, lasts indefinitely. It has no biological pathway for spoiling. Second, sugar is a preservation technology. It creates an osmotic environment that pulls moisture out of bacterial cells and halts their growth, the entire principle behind jams and preserves that survive without refrigeration. When your refrigerator isn't reliable, sugar becomes a tool before it becomes a sweetener. Third, it's the fastest energy your body can access, and in a physically demanding emergency, that has real value. Store it for the hard times, and keep being mindful of it in the good ones. Both things are true at once. Number 2. Salt. Here's a mineral that built empires, and that your body cannot live without. For most of history, salt shaped economies and trade routes. The word salary traces to the Latin word for salt. It was payment. And the storage fact is beautifully simple. Pure salt has no biological mechanism for spoilage. Kept dry, it lasts forever. Its survival value goes far beyond flavor. Salt draws moisture out of food and creates conditions bacteria can't survive, which is the principle behind curing meat, brining fish, and fermenting vegetables. In other words, salt extends the life of everything else you've stored, and physiologically, sodium is essential. Fluid balance, muscle contraction, nerve signaling all depend on it. Now, the balanced truth for this audience. Most of us currently consume more sodium than guidelines recommend, and moderating it matters for blood pressure. Both facts coexist. Your body needs sodium absolutely, and most modern diets overshoot it. In an emergency with physical labor and sweat, salt becomes precious. Store it generously, use it wisely. One practical note, for bulk storage, plain non-iodized salt is the simpler choice, since added iodine can degrade over time. The salt itself stays perfectly safe either way. So, if salt lasts forever and civilizations were built on it, what could possibly take the top spot? Number 1. Honey. We open this video with a food that survived an estimated 3,000 years in sealed jars, and this is it. Honey takes number 1 because it's the only item on this list that combines an essentially infinite shelf life. With things no other food here can do, the chemistry first. Honey contains almost no free moisture, and its natural acidity creates an environment where microbes simply cannot survive. Bees even contribute an enzyme that generates trace amounts of hydrogen peroxide. The result, a sealed jar of pure honey, has no biological route to spoiling. It doesn't go bad slowly. It doesn't go bad at all. Then there's what honey does beyond feeding you. Its antimicrobial properties aren't just folklore. They're supported by modern research, and medical-grade honey is genuinely used in professional wound care today. Traditionally, it's been used to soothe sore throats and settle digestion. In a situation where medical supplies are limited, one jar quietly covers food, first aid, and morale at once. One important safety note: honey should never be given to infants under 1 year old, due to the risk of infant botulism. For everyone else, it's remarkably safe. An honest nutrition note for this channel: honey is still a sugar, and your body largely treats it like one. In daily life, it deserves the same moderation as any sweetener. But as a permanent, multi-purpose, morale-lifting store of energy that will outlast every other food you own, nothing else comes close. If your honey crystallizes, that's physics, not spoilage. A warm, not boiling, water bath returns it to liquid with its properties intact. Buy pure, real honey, and it will quite literally never let you down. Infinite shelf life. Food, first aid, preservative, and comfort in a single jar. That's why honey is number 1. And once the evidence is on the table, it isn't close. So there it is. 18 foods, 3 tiers. The Decade Club: noodles, canned vegetables, fruit, canned fish and meats, bouillon, coffee, powdered milk, MREs, and peanut butter. Your rotation layer: store it, eat it, replace it. The 30-year club: fats and ghee, oats, lentils, wheat berries, and white rice. The deep foundation you seal once and trust. And the forever foods: vinegar, sugar, salt, and honey. The 4 with no real expiration at all. 3 lessons to take with you. First, spoilage needs moisture, oxygen, or microbes. Control those, and food essentially stops aging. Second, the healthiest pantry is one you actually use. Rotate the shorter-lived foods through your everyday cooking, and let the sealed long-term staples wait. And third, don't neglect the psychological layer. The coffee, the bouillon, the honey. In any long difficulty, morale isn't a luxury. It's part of your health. One final reminder, as always on this channel: this video is for general education, not medical advice. If you're managing blood pressure, diabetes, or any health condition, talk with your doctor before making significant changes to how you eat. Building a resilient pantry isn't about fearing the worst. It's about giving your future self options. The best time to start was years ago. The second best time is this week. If this guide gave you something valuable, subscribe and turn on notifications. And tell me in the comments which of these 18 foods you want us to investigate in a full deep dive next. Thanks for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.